Hello. Yes, I am still alive. I know it's been a while since I posted, but a lot of things happening with personal life, just as far as like with school and stuff like that. So just haven't really had enough time. But I really want to get this video out before any more news is being breaking because goodness gracious, NFL free agency is already starting to happen as far as re-signings and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of want to get this video out before there's any more news talking about the Panthers to just get my ideas of like how things are going to go. So without further ado, let's begin. Now, right now, the Panthers have about 29.8 million in cap for 2025, and we have about 149.8 million in cap in 2026. So a lot more cap coming in 2026, and the cap is going to steadily increase as well. So keep that in mind. One of the things that we've gotten some confirmation on is on some of either the contracts that are going to be decided upon and what Dan Morgan wants to do. So first of all, we know that he does not plan on extending Taylor Moton, which is fine. Like I said, the only problem is that we do have to accrue the cap because we've been restructuring his deal. So that will come out to a $31.3 million cap hit. That's the reason why a lot of people, me especially early on in free agency, I thought we were going to re-sign him. It's fine if we don't, because try to kick that money on down the line to basically get a new deal following this season. I'll be fine with that. Like I said, I want to keep Taylor Moton here. He's been a consistent offensive lineman for us. Literally missed like his first game ever last year. Like I said, he's absolutely outstanding. A $31 million cap hit is a lot, but we can deal with it for this year. That's fine. The other thing too is I say we cut Shy Tuttle. Now, obviously, this is a very major issue with a lot of Panthers is how Shy Tuttle has been. He was a signing from previously from Fitterer. Same thing for another guy I'm going to be talking about that we're going to be cut. But if we do cut Shy Tuttle, who's our starting nose tackle, it would give us $3.3 million in 2025 and then also $2.3 million in 2026. Now, Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders did a really great job in the, especially when Chuba Hubbard went out and we sat him down for the rest of the year. And he had an amazing game in Atlanta. He is not going to start. He's not. And so the money that we would save by cutting him and giving him the opportunity to find a new team, I think it's the best for both worlds in that case. I understand, like, by cutting him and having Jonathan Brooks out for basically the whole entire year, that's putting a lot of pressure on our running back room that we don't have the pieces for. That's fine. Because if you cut Miles Sanders, you get 5.2 mil cap, a mil in cap in this year, and then you get 7 mil in 2026. Like that's huge. That's huge numbers for someone who's going to be a running back too for us. So in the end, you come out with about 47 mil in cap with all those different cuts, all the like the savings that we made. Now you got to take out 10 mil from that because ultimately you're going to use that for signing your rookies. So kind of taking that out of the pot, that gives about 37 million to work with. So we have 37 million to cap in 2025, and then 160 in 2026. Now this not including what we might do in free agency, whatnot, but that is a whole lot of cap to be able to focus on really building through the draft. I feel like we're going to do this year, and then focus on going huge in free agency. That's probably going to be a better free agent class going into next year because this year it's not as good, especially with all the different tags that are starting to happen, like tagging T. Higgins, tagging Trey Smith. There's not as many big names that are going to free agency. So let's talk about the re-signings that we could potentially do. So re-signings, I think that we'll re-sign Johnny Hekker. Has been outstanding for us as a punter. Yeah, he's getting up in there in age, but he has a really good camaraderie with J.J. Jansen. Plus, when you're bringing in a new kicker, it's better to have like that good chemistry between the holder. So until we get a certified kicker to like stay with us for a very long time, I would rather have Johnny Hekker as just like as far as stability wise. So he signed him to about 2 year. And okay, let's preface this as well. When I say like how many $1 million I'm going to put in the cap, I put in the contract, I'm mainly meaning about the cap hit. Like I don't care about the other guarantees or the other big numbers. I'm strictly talking about the cap hit because otherwise it gets very confusing. So I'm going to say Hekker signs for a 2 year and $6 million cap, and that's going to be broken up into about 3 mil per year. Like I said, I think that's pretty standard as far as like 3 mil cap hit per year. you can move that around if you don't want to give him as many guarantees. That's fine. I was thinking like he deserves the money. Like I said, $3 million is not that bad for a punter. And he's still like at least top half of the league. If not, sometimes he's absolutely the reason we might win games. Next one up that I want us to re-sign is David Moore. I think David Moore, especially not having Rashid, Blackshear, not having him return. It's better to have someone with special team skills, especially returning ability. David Moore does have that, so I mean that's just a smaller contract too for a wide receiver 5, 1 year, $2 million. Like I said, he came in clutch some games where he had a pretty good relationship with Bryce. So I think you want to bring him back. Like, so you bring someone who's familiar with Dave Canal's system, and like I said, has good camaraderie with Bryce Young. The last one that I kind of want to focus on, there's not many people that I want to bring back. I'm fine with losing like Tommy Trimble, even though I wouldn't mind him coming back. Just depends on the right price. But I want to bring back Cade Mays. I know that we backed up the price that we backed up the day that we can re-sign Austin Corbett. If we're able to, that's fine. But I don't know the pricing, and that's going to cut into who we could potentially help to fix our team. When Cade Mays did a serviceable job, and there's actually some pretty good centers that we can get in this draft if we want to have competition at that position. Because ultimately, I want us to have a young enough center to carry over until basically once those 2 major contracts for Robert Hunt and also Damian Lewis start to expire, where we have the next center for the future, where you have these 2 really good guards that you can not necessarily just like not pay attention to the center position. It's still a super important position. But at the end of the day, you have these 2 amazing guards that are going to help out your center tremendously. So it's not as big of a need to try to sign Austin Corbett that might be a little more expensive. I love Austin Corbett. I think if we re-sign him, it's amazing for offensive line, and that's the best possible thing. But Cade Mays had a good relationship with Bryce. Was he as good as Austin Corbett? No. But he was still really good in of itself because of the fact that you have those 2 guards. So I want to re-sign him for about 2 year, about $4 million. So that's about 2 year, $2 million per year kind of cap hit. Like I said, pretty easy contract for him, and it'll be way more money that he would get from going to other places. So it keeps him in house. Like I said, he technically was out on the Giants practice squad before we brought him back, and really love what he did there. If anything, he can also play both guard positions as well. So position flexibility is super important for me to bring Cade Mays back. Now let's talk about like what our team needs are. So there's a couple of not a couple. There's a lot of team needs that we have, mainly because we need to run back 2 and 3. Not retaining Blackshear, in this instance cutting Miles Sanders. That's running back 2 and 3 gone. You got Spencer Brown. Obviously, you have Chuba Hubbard, but running back in this class in particular, it's very deep. If you listen to what Luke and I have talked about on GridIron Gurus, shameless plug, on YouTube, we've been talking about how great this running back class is. We'll get into like as far as like our draft breakdowns for them later on, like the next coming weeks. But I really love this running back class that we can invest enough, not too much, into this running back class that when Jonathan Brooks comes back, you have a really nice set of, okay, well, we re-signed Chuba Hubbard. We have Jonathan Brooks for at least 2 more years. We'll have the other running back for another 3 more years after the season. Like I said, it allows us to not have to worry about that position for a good little bit. Another one that we need, like I said, we need wide receiver 4. I already talked about how David Moore's wide receiver 5. We have our first 3 wide receivers: Adam Thielen, Xavier Legette, and also Jalen Coker. Wherever you have them in each order, that's fine. Just depends on your how you feel. I don't think we're going to go for a big name wide receiver. It would really make sense as far as where we are cap wise and the actual players that are available. And I'll get into that a little bit later. Tied into, like I said, if we don't bring back Tommy Trimble, that's another big loss because you only have really oh my goodness, just lost my train of thought. Texas tight end that we just took out, Jatavian Sanders, goodness gracious. And so we need another tight end because Dave Canales likes to do 2 tight end sets. I think it's really beneficial for our offense as well as not just being like molded into like we have to have, three wide receivers on at all times. Another thing too is we need depth on our interior offensive line, especially all the people that we're losing, and also offensive tackle. We're good now, but we need to start looking at either undrafted free agents or someone like late in the draft that you can kind of that you can develop. Need a number one nose tackle. Cut Shot Tuttle. We don't really have anybody else on the roster that can fit that mold, and that's super duper important in Evero's defensive scheme. So number one nose tackle. Defensive line depth. We're losing a lot of people. So we and like I said, that's fine. We just have to replace them. And this is a really great defensive line draft. So this, and also talk about like the edge depth. We need edge depth as well. This is a very, very good draft to be able to find the people that we need. So I'm not really concerned about that. We'll find it. We'll find it in the draft. I'll get into that a little bit later. And also, we have to have an overhaul at safety. We have legit one single safety that's on contract, and that's going to be Damani Richardson, which I love. Damani Richardson, great strong safety for us. Had some pretty good moments, especially in the year coming as an undrafted free agent. So I'm really happy about him. But at the end of the day, we have to go very, very hard in the safety, whether it be in free agency or in the draft or both. So let's talk about like potential free agents that you could possibly have. So for nose tackle, there's like three options that I'm looking at. I'm looking at who has connections to this staff, who would want to either come back home, that sort of thing. So the first one, the obvious one, is DJ Jones. DJ Jones on the Broncos. He said that he might want to come back to the Broncos. That's something to keep in mind. But he would be a little bit higher price as far as like a nose tackle, but he would be dominant in his role. So he would have probably a 2-year contract with a cap hit around that $20 million. So about $8 million a cap hit in 2025, but then that would jump up to about $12 million in 2026. Like I said, you can start pushing money out into later years because the fact that the cap is going to continue to grow. I'm letting you know right now, all the cap space that we continue to see. You see the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles are able to sign those huge contracts to Saquon Barkley, sign the huge contracts to all these people. Like if you look at all the cap hits that are like later on down the line for Jalen Hurts and whatnot, it's massive. The reason being is because the way that we do cap is about to absolutely balloon. So start to see people just pushing money way in the future to where the Saints did, but the Saints didn't nearly have this much of cap space that was increasing as it is right now. So that's a little bit of a difference. So, like I said, a little bit tangent, but pushing money in the future, we could be able to get DJ Jones and be able to sign other free agents. One on a little bit cheaper side, but just for a 1-year deal, is Poona Ford. Now, Poona Ford had an amazing year for the Los Angeles Chargers, but he was under Dan Morgan. Like Dan Morgan and Dave Canales. Dan Morgan found him and another guy I'll talk about later. Later on, I think he actually might have been undrafted. I'm not for sure, but he's the kind of guy that Dan Morgan found, and he's going to want to try to get some of his guys. You saw that with Dane Jackson last year. It's the reason why I predicted that we would get Dane Jackson last year. Didn't work out. But in this case, you only sign Poona Ford to a 1-year deal. That's going to be closer to $6-7 mil in cap hit. Like I said, a little bit higher cap hit, but he's an amazing player. He fits that mold of a smaller defensive, a smaller nose guard. He's at like nose tackle. He's like 5'11", like 2, like 3 something. Like he's like a pretty stocky dude. Really great nose tackle that we could potentially get in free agency. The last one I'm not really thinking about is Greg Gaines. Greg Gaines was with before he went to Tampa, was actually with the Rams under Ejiro Evero. So like there's still some familiarity there. But I'm really focusing on like nose tackle with mainly Poona Ford and DJ Jones. Moving on to defense tackle, there's a couple different players we go to. Initially, I had Osa Digazoo on here, but I kind of figured with all the talks that he was going to go back to the Cowboys, and he is. So let's talk about some of like the ones that we could possibly get for not cheap, but focusing on more like filling out that depth role that fit a role for us. So that could be Sebastian Joseph Day, who has that dual ability to play nose and defense tackle. Same as I think for Jaron Reed, that has the availability to play both edge and defense tackle that I'll talk about a little bit later. But Sebastian Joseph Day, his would be closer to like that 2-year, I would say even 10 mil. So like you'd have like 4 mil in 2025 and 6 mil cap hit in 2026. Like I said, he's a really good player. He has familiarity with Ejiro Evero. And overall, he's like this hulking figure that we need desperately on our defensive line that I would really love to see. Like I said, Ashawn Robinson had a similar impact on our defensive line this year as far as like being like, getting some pressure, so interior pressure when Derek Brown was out. Having Sebastian Joseph stay there would be amazing for us as well. He'd be on a little bit cheaper side. The other ones aren't necessarily too cheap. I think Levi Onwuzurike, like I liked him coming out of Washington. He was a second round pick for the Lions. He's probably going to go back to the Lions if I had to guess, or if not, he'll go to the Jets. I'm predicting that the one of the two, mainly if he's following the defense coordinator going to the Jets, or if he's going to be staying where he was and being that rotational type by trying to chase a ring. But I would love him coming here. It'd be about the same exact cap for Levi that it would be for Sebastian, about that $210 million. He's not going to get a huge contract, but he's still enough of a role player that could really impact our defensive line. Now for the bigger ones. Obviously, it's going to be Milton Williams. That's what everyone's been looking for. I am not as high on Milton Williams, mainly because I understand like pass rushing ability, absolutely. Pass rushing ability, he is up there with pretty much anyone. Because he's a little bit smaller, it's a little bit concerned by the run defense. Our run defense is absolute trash. Now, obviously, getting Derek Brown back, a little bit different deal. But are we really going to want to pay Milton Williams roughly what I'm seeing right now? And just cap hit, not like with guaranteed, not with like everything else. 3-year, $42 million. Like I said, you can still spread out that money, but are you really looking for mainly a pass rushing defensive tackle that struggles against a run heavily? Like just if you watch some of the Eagles games, he gets washed down a lot. And it definitely helps. You have Jordan Davis, and you have Jalen Walker, not Jalen Walker, sorry. And then you have Jordan, like say you have Jordan Davis. You have why can't I think of his name right now? I'm blanking right now. Jalen Carter. Goodness gracious, it definitely helps. So I'm not saying that he's all the way a product of that, but he's mainly a pass rushing defensive tackle that struggles in run defense that we were the absolute worst at. So I am not of the belief that we should go after Milton Williams. If we get him, fine, I'll be happy. But I'm not on board, especially paying that much money for him. So you talk in the comments if you disagree with me, that's perfectly fine. I am just iffy on that because of what we desperately need. So going on to edge, like I talked about before, it's kind of like a mixture of the two. Like Jaron Reed can be like a defense tackle edge rusher, or just he can be just straight up defense tackle. Like he's move all over the defensive line in a 3-4 scheme. I really like him. He can be like a 1-year deal. Like he's 33, I believe. Had a really good year last year for Seattle. Another one that Dan Morgan found when he was scouting. Like I said, he's going to want to have some of his guys come in, and having Jared Reed come back for like a $6 million deal, I think that'd be great for our defensive line. So he's a little on the cheaper side. Another one on the cheaper side, as far as like actually being an edge, like I would say more so like 3-4 outside linebacker, is Mike Hoyt. Now he is, I think I'm saying his last name right, but it's Hoecht. Like I said, he's that huge hulking defensive end that's on rotation for the Rams. He was there when Ejiro Evero was there. Like I said, they have some connection. He's a really good run defense edge that we desperately need. Does it give you that much pass rush? No, which is like the downside to it, which is the reason why you're not paying him that much, like maybe like a $3 million kind of deal. But you're looking for somebody who's going to set the edge that you don't have to worry about, because that's one of the things that I had major worry, especially early on in the year, where we just could not contain the edge. Having him, we're able to. He's going to be in high demand because of that fact. And he's also kind of big, so that helps too. The other ones that I'm really looking for is edge. I have two that are going to be big paydays. One that's not really been talked about enough, because I guess they just assume that he's going to be re-signed by his team, is Baron Browning. Now, Baron Browning, he was traded for by the Cardinals. More like he's going to get re-signed. But if not, I would expect us to try to go after him, especially because He was there under Evero in the Broncos. He fits that scheme, and he's not going to be that. He's not going to be like that expensive. He would be like basically like a 2-year, like $12 million cap. You have $5 million cap in 2025, $7 million cap in 2026. Like I said, that's not bad for the person who could potentially get you anywhere between 7 to 9 sacks a year. Absolutely, I would like. I know we have not had a lot of sacks in the last couple of years. I would love to have that for about $5 million a year. That's perfectly fine with me. The next two is Josh Sweat and Malcolm Kuntz. Might be a little bit out of our price range. Josh Sweat, there's a high chance he could go to the Cardinals. Like I said, he could reunite with Jonathan Gannon. He's looking at a deal that's going to be like it's going to be a lot to try to retain him. So like I was saying for like as far as cap hit, 3-year, $60 million in cap hit over spread out. So that would be like about $14 million in 2025, $22 million in 2026, and then going up to $24 million in 2027. So like just pushing all that into future contracts. Malcolm Kuntz, I said, is more of like a $22 million deal, but he probably wants a shorter contract so he can get that third contract. So it'd be more of like a 2-year, $44 million cap hit, and it'll be $18 million in 2025 and 26 and 26. Like I said, I would love to have these players. Kuntz is coming off of like a season-ending injury, so like there's a little bit more concern there. But I want a pass rusher that I can depend on, and I would much rather pay them closer to 20 or so million if they can give me that 8 to 10 to even potentially 12 sack a year. Then what I talked about where I didn't want Brian Burns, that 30 mil, who's given the same as that kind of production. So that's kind of like what I'm kind of looking for is like far as like an immediate impact edge rusher that we can still get an edge rusher in the draft to pair with as far as like who our future is going to be. Plus we also did pay 2 edge rushers last year. So like, are we really going to be continuously putting in a lot of money into one position? I don't know. Draft picks could a lot of money. I don't know. Moving on to interior linebackers. Like I said, losing Shaq Thompson, that's gonna be huge for us. Mainly because we didn't have depth last year, especially with all the injuries that we had. You still have Josie Jewell. Yeah, you drafted Trayvon Wallace. Like there's 2, but do you want Trayvon Wallace to start, or do you want to look for in the free agency to potential like give him that one more year of development before he has to start? And so like I'll give you some names I'm kind of looking for as like 1-year deals, kind of bargain bin, but could immediately impact our defense as far as being sure tacklers, as far as being good partners with Josie Jewell, who would probably take the lead. Eric Wilson played really well for the Green Bay Packers. He's probably like a 1-year, $3 million cap hit. Oren Burks came in for Zach Bond and did – oh, no, sorry, not for Zach Bond. He came in for Georgia linebacker. I can't think of his name right now. He's really good with names. Man. But he came in for him, and he did an amazing job. Like I said, he was from he did the same exact thing for the 49ers when Dre Greenlaw went down in the Super Bowl. He came in, did an amazing job for him. Came in, not Nolan Smith. Goodness gracious, this is Georgia linebacker. It's not Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith is edge rusher. I can't remember his name. Goodness gracious, it'll come back to me. But he came in for him, did an amazing job, and he would be closer to like a $4 million kind of cap hit. But like, I would be glad with that. I would be glad to bring him in, have him that starter role. If he blossoms, you can sign him to a long-term deal because Josie Jewell will be going to his last year's contract, and that Trevor Wallace can be prepared to try to take over for Josie Jewell. So like I said, that's my favorite for like a short-term contract. Another one that I've really been looking at for a while now is Chris Barnes. He played really well with the Cardinals under Gannon's system. He's someone who's just kind of he's been mainly a bargain bin kind of linebacker who's still been a really good tackling machine. Has he been all that consistent? Not terribly, but he's done well in every single system that he's been in. So someone that I would really love to for us to get. As far as the other ones that might be a little more expensive, I'll go up one more tier to Robert Spillane. He's been a very sure tackler. If we want that, not the best in coverage, but like someone who's going to be a very sure tackler, putting him besides Joseph Jewell, not super duper expensive, but it's still, a 2-year, maybe $20-ish million cap hit. So like $8 million in 2025 and $12 million in 2026. Like I said, still kind of expensive, but it's to have that sure tackler, have that leader, have that thumper that Dan Morgan's going to want to have. Or do we go in the upper echelon as far as like, the two top players that might get re-signed back to their teams, which is Zach Bond and Nick Bolton. There's a possibility that both of them get re-signed back to their teams. I'm not really looking into them as much, but Zach Bond potentially could have like a 3-year, $42 million cap hit. Nick Bolton could have a 4-year, $52 million cap hit. Like I said, Nick Bolton's way younger than Zach Bond, so there's a reason why I'll give him another year. But you can spread that out. Like I said, for Zach Bond, you can have $12 million in 2025, $14 million in 2026, and then $16 million in 2027. Like I said, not too much flexibility, but still trying to push some of that cap hit into 2027. And then for Nick Bolton, you can go super duper cheap and then just start adding that on. So $10 million in 2025, $12 million in 2026, $14 million in 2027, and then $16 million in 2020. Like I said, just keep on pushing that cap hit super duper far down the line. If you're able to get someone like Nick Bolton, who would absolutely work wonders for this defense, especially coming from the Chiefs defense. There's another Chiefs player that, like I said, might get re-signed to Chiefs. Don't know what they're going to do with their cap, but if he doesn't, I would love for him to come here. I'll talk about that when I talk about safeties. But cornerback, I'm thinking there's two ways we can go about this. We can either go super duper cheap just to be like, okay, J.C. Horn going into his first year of his contract extension, because more likely we're going to get that before free agency starts, even though he's 1 more year in his contract. We can either go like a stopgap, or we could go someone like, for the future and have 2 excellent corners, not have to worry about that much. That's going to benefit our young safeties that we're going to have, and then we can really focus on the front 7. So potential cornerbacks that we could take is a Stephon Gilmore. That's be like so we've been trying to get him for many, many years. We got it. We had him 3 years ago. I'm trying to get him back. So we could do 1 year, $7 million, the cap hit, kind of close to what he had for the Vikings. Adoree Jackson is one that I'm surprised it doesn't get really talked about enough. Like, I know the Giants defense was not the best, but he has been good. Like, obviously Deonte Banks has not been good, but Adoree Jackson has been pretty good, even up in his age. I think he's up to 29 right now. He's the same as that draft class as Corey Davis. And both of them were drafted to the Titans, which is almost forever ago, 2017, which is kind of crazy. But he's like up in that 29 range. He still has some good ball left. Put him at cornerback 2. You have J.C. Horn. I think that's a good fit for Adoree Jackson at this point in time. So he would be like a 1 year, $8 million. He's a little bit younger than Stephon Gilmore. One that I would love for us to get. I mean, he is coming off of a big injury. Paulson Adebo, liked him coming out of Stanford when he was drafted. I have a feeling he could probably go to the Bears, though. I think that Dennis Allen's probably going to want to try to take him. But he could be like a 2-year, $22 million cap hit. Rasul Douglas, former Panther for a year, he could come back. He had a pretty rough season last year. He's getting up there in age, so like it's a little bit iffy if you want to bring him back. But he would be like a 2-year, $24 million cap hit. And then the 2 big ones that I would really love for us to get. Carlton Davis. I'm an Auburn fan. Would love to have Carlton Davis come to the Panthers. Obviously, he went to the Buccaneers for a while. Then was taken to the Lions for a year. Like I said, he could re-sign with the Lions. He could not. Just depends on what they want to do. But Carlton Davis, his would be closer to like a 3-year, $45 million cap hit. He's a little bit younger than the other person we're talking about, which is Charvarius Ward. I think both of them, yes, Charvarius Ward came off of a really bad year, but he had a lot of personal things. Both of them are really good corners that could be number 2 corners for J.C. Horn. And it could also free up J.C. Horn to potentially be able to move inside a nickel and not have to worry about like, okay, we don't have the personnel to be able to match up with the number 1. If you have Charvarius Ward, if you have Carlton Davis, you can do that. Because that was some of the problems that we started to see in last year, where there was a lot of people who were like, well, why didn't J.C. Horn follow number 1 all the time? Sometimes he can't. Um, because he couldn't go inside because he didn't have anybody to take outside. And then, like I said, Travarius Ward would be closer to like a 2-year, $30 million cap hit. So both of them, I would love for us to get them, but more than likely we might go to the bargain bin. Lastly, is safety. I'm just going to kind of go quickly through these. Damar Hamlin is the one that's kind of piqued my interest. He's a thumper. Sometimes kind of gets lost in coverage, so like it's not really the best, but he could be a like 2-year, $8 million cap hit spread across. Ardarius Stewart from TCU, loved him. He's at Baltimore. Strong safety, smaller guy. Like I said, maybe 5'9", if that, like 185. But he's a thumper. Like I said, we need an influx of safety regardless. And I think he brings a kind of attitude that we desperately need in the safety room. And I like that he's like he still has hands on him. He's still gonna pick things off. Obviously helps when you have Kyle Hamilton, but still, I would still love to have him here. And the other ones that I kind of was talking about is mainly three big ticket items. That's Trevin Merring. We've been linked to him a lot from coming from the Raiders. He could possibly get re-signed, but that's like a 3-year, $48 million kind of a cap hit. And then the two big ones is Javon Holland and Justin Reed. Now, are we going to pay a lot of money for safeties? I wouldn't mind it because we desperately need some help at safety. It would be beneficial to have like a vet like Justin Reed, who's been on Super Bowl winning teams, who we honestly have a pretty good shot of bringing him in because we were the only ones to bring in his brother Eric Reed when the rest of the NFL owners blackballed him. I'll give it credit to Dave Tepper. He signed off on bringing in Eric Reed because he thought like this is what's going to help us to win. That was back in 2018. That was Justin Reed's rookie year. So I think like there's still a possibility that he's like, okay, like this team helped out my brother. This team, like, is willing to pay me. It's not a bad situation. We're on the rise. So I don't think it's that crazy that he could possibly come to the Carolina Panthers. Now, Willie, I don't know. But I kind of like Justin Reed to come here. I kind of like Javon Holland to come here. They would be like super big contracts, though. Like Justin Reed, probably like a 3-year, $48 million cap hit. Like I said, very big because he is going to be up in like 28. I think he's like around 28 years old. Javon Holland, though, is 24. And his will be like a 4-year, $64 million cap hit. Just push the money further along. I think safeties are going to be going to get paid a lot over the next couple of years. So I don't think it's out of the question that you have, these big contracts going to safeties. Same thing we're seeing with guards. I think we're going to see in safeties too. And so these are the potential free agency, the potential free agents that we could see. Let me go into the potential draft strategy that we could see. Now I'm going to give you two different kind of plans that we could take for this offseason, whether it be free agency or draft. Mainly because I want to kind of show you a lot of the draft prospects that I really like, while also showing that I think there's a possibility we could kind of mend these two. So don't take them as I'm saying one or saying the other. I'm just showing the two different approaches that will more than likely be mended together. So let's first go with free agency fixes the major issues while the draft fills out the roster. So if I say that we're going to fix the major issues, our major issues is nose tackle, is cornerback 2, and is going to be safety, mainly because we don't have any safeties outside of one. Because I think in this draft we'll be able to restock our front 7 and also be able to fill out our depth. So in this instance, we would sign DJ Jones to that big contract, but make sure that we are solidifying our nose tackle, having Derek Brown back, and potentially either having A. Robinson be the other defensive tackle in this 3-4 scheme, or potentially even drafting one. And then our safeties would be Justin Reed, who's, like I said, has that $10 million cap hit. Ardarius Stewart being our strong safety, so moving Justin Reed over to free safety. He's been there in the past. Ardarius Washington is strong safety. And then Carlton Davis would be an amazing number 2 corner to have for J.C. Horn to be able to work with, and where J.C. Horn can be able to even slide into nickel if need be. So those would be like our big ticket items. I know, like I said, not as many free agents, but it's mainly like the kind of the same thing what we did last year. bringing in 2 huge free agents. In this case, it'll be closer to 3, and then another complimentary piece. Now moving on to our draft. Now, I am going to be a big proponent of trading down, mainly because I don't feel like our who we truly want is going to be available for us. Like let's just say Mason Graham, Abdul Carter, Will Johnson, maybe even for that matter, they might not be there for us to take. And I'm not even saying Travis Hunter. I know for sure he's not going to be there, but like there's a chance that none of those players are there. There's a chance that they could not be high on Will Johnson, even though Will Johnson could potentially fall. So if that's the case, do we take who we want to take before, or do we trade down knowing that more than likely they will be there wherever we trade down? As long as we're not trading down like down to the 20s. I'm not going to say try like trade down significantly out of the total top 15, but enough to be able to accrue more picks, especially how some people might be desperate to make sure they get a blue chip prospect. So in this case, we'll trade down from 8 and give up picks 8 and 164 for the Dolphins to take 13 and 48 so that they could take Will Campbell. In this scenario, Will Campbell is not being picked. Let's just say like the Patriots take Ted McMillan. Let's say that the Dolphins are concerned that the Bears are going to take Will Campbell, or even the 49ers are going to take Will Campbell. There's potential players who could take this blue chip prospect that the Dolphins just need offensive line help in general. And this would be an amazing pickup for the Dolphins to be able to try to implement their scheme and to actually have a healthy offensive line. Like Will Campbell is absolutely outstanding prospect. I think he's still a tackle. Some other people feel like he's could be all pro guard. Whatever you feel about him, he could be a potential prospect that falls to us that we don't really need, that people are going to be clamoring for. So in this case, we get 13 to 48. So we trade down to 13. In this case, we have revamped our safety class. We revamped our safeties. So we don't need somebody that I will talk about in the next plan. So instead we'll focus on edge rusher. Well, in this case, there's no Abdul Carter. So now we get into like my edge 2 or 3. And I know for certain this player should be there at 13. I think it's being a little bit of a riser. I absolutely love Donovan Ezeraku. I have loved him from the first time that I saw him, which was this past college football season against Florida State. Now, Florida State absolutely were trash. But I was willing to watch it because I was like, are they going to lose the second time in a row? He popped off the page so hard. I know, like I said, Florida State not that good, but then I started to follow him, and he consistently did really, really well against good teams. Now, obviously, I would have loved him to see him go against Armor Mimbu from Missouri, which was the following game after the Florida State game. Unfortunately, he lined up more so going against left tackle than was against right tackle Mimbu, which is unfortunate to watch. But he, like I said, he had an amazing year. He had like 60.5 sacks. He's got like 34-inch arms. He's got a really good pass rush sets. You can have some problems like him setting the edge. Obviously, he's like 6'3", 254. But those are the kind of edge rushers that Evero loves to have in his scheme. So going by that metric, I would love him to be the kind of edge rusher that we bring in to implement into the scheme, being a pass rusher of getting us at least 8 sacks a year. I would love that for Ezeraku, and I think that he has that kind of potential to bring 8 to 10, maybe even to 12 sacks, just like a consistent pass rush that we desperately need. So Ezeraku at 13 from Boston College, 48. I think there's a chance that this defensive tackle starts to fall. I really like him, but he's not going to fit everybody's scheme. That's TJ Sanders. Loved watching him as well. I mean, the whole entire South Carolina defense was absolutely amazing to watch. But TJ Sanders getting constant pressure. He would be, in this case, what I was talking about with Milton Williams, he would be the cheaper version of a Milton Williams that is not necessarily the best. I mean, he's better than Milton Williams at run defense, but he's more known for his pass rush, which is fine. Like I said, that's what we desperately need. We have Derek Brown, or in this case, we would have DJ Jones be the main people who are taking up the double teams, and he could just be like a one-on-one specialist. But you're not paying him like you would have like a Milton Williams. That's my main concern. So I love how TJ Sanders, defensive tackle from South Carolina. Next at pick 57, the Rams second round pick that we got from trading back, Mason Taylor. Now I know tight end a little bit high, but I love Mason Taylor. As far as being a 1-2 punch with him and Jatavian Sanders would be amazing for Bryce Young. It would also be being able to have those two tight end sets. So in my mind, having investing in tight end, I think, especially in this draft class, where there are some that are not just the top two picks in Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren, I think we could be able to make that work, especially with someone who's like as smooth a route runner as Mason Taylor is. Now, is he anywhere near like some of the other tight ends that I've talked about before? No. But is he really good? Is he really good at finding Is he really good at finding spots in the zone? He worked really well with Jaden Daniels the previous 2 years before working with Grant Nussmeier, and just being an Auburn fan, I watched him a lot. I really like him in Mason Taylor. He's my tight end 3. So have him in the bottom of the second round. At pick 74, I like Cam Scatterbu as in the third round. I know he might go higher, so like if you feel bad about the draft so far, you can switch him and Mason Taylor picks if that's in your prerogative. But Cam Scatterbu, he doesn't necessarily give you the breakaway speed, but it gives you amazing contact balance, amazing vision, and just like the power to be able to take those 3-yard gains and making them into 5-yard gains. Like I said, we need a power back to complement Chuba Hubbard, and that would be a perfect 1-2 punch. That when you bring back Jonathan Brooks, that has a little more shiftiness to him, that would be able to round out a really amazing running back room that we would not have to worry about for a very long time. Now, going on from pick 74 about Cam Scatterbu from Arizona State, let's go to Joshua Farmer. Now, Joshua Farmer is a defensive tackle that I looked at actually last year when I was looking over Jared Verse and also Brandon Fisk. Jonathan Farmer, I think he was like 47. He was a weird number last year. Changed it to 5 after Jared Verse leaves. He had a really good season as well, and he's the kind of defensive tackle that can work as a nose and also as a defensive tackle. So that position flexibility is something that we desperately need, especially if we do sign someone who like a Jaron Reed, or if we don't, we need that position flexibility, especially with a lot of people who are going to be gone after this year. So would love to have Joshua Farmer at 110. At 113, I'm kind of focusing on interior offensive line, especially depending on if we're able to get Austin Corbett. In my mind, we're not able to. We were able to re-sign Cade Mays. So we bring in somebody to bring some challenges to Cade Mays, and that's going to be Jake Majors, center from Texas. Love him. Love another center in this class, like later on in the draft that I'll talk about. Jake Majors, I think he's like a 5-year starter at Texas, has so many snaps. Like I said, very, very experienced center. Does all the calls. Like I said, was really good at Texas. So someone that I know we've drafted a lot of people from Texas in the last 2 years. But really just the two, Jatavian Sanders and Jonathan Brooks. But signing another guy like Jake Majors, would love that for a team, especially for our offensive line to build up that depth that we desperately need. At 141, safety that I've been watching for a very long time, mainly because I'm an Auburn fan, Malachi Moore from Bama. Absolute great ball hawk. Does he do the best in run defense? Not necessarily. Like I said, sometimes he makes some whiffs. But absolutely amazing ball hawk. A little bit older prospect. But at the end of the day, it fills out our safety room where you have Justin Reed at starting free safety. You have Malachi Moore backing him up. You have Ardarius Stewart being the starting strong safety. You have Damani Richardson backing him up. Like I said, you fill out that safety room with quality talent that can be able to fill a role like Malachi Moore would be able to do. At pick 147, I'm looking for depth at interior linebacker. Like I said, in this case, you wouldn't have signed an interior linebacker, so you would only have Josie Jewell and you would have Trevor Wass as your starters. I think someone like Jack Kaiser, who doesn't necessarily have the best numbers, but as a thumper, as being a run defensive kind of guy, I They could potentially have him and John Radigan as being your main interior linebackers, like as far as backups. I think it's a pretty good. I think that's fine. Like I said, it's not the best, but it's like it's filling out the roster, just making sure that we have everything where we're not like, oh crap, we don't have enough interior linebackers anymore because like we had last year. So focusing on that in draft, Jack Kaiser, liked him, especially seeing him play at Notre Dame, just being a good thumper. And then at pick 229, might not be there, but there's a lot of concern to like him not being in football as much. But he was former CrossFit, and this is going to be Ahmed Hassani. I think it's I might have said his name wrong. I'm very sorry. The edge from Boise State, Hassani. I don't know why I'm going to put it up there anyway, so I don't know why I spelled it out. But he was really good as well, being productive. Like I said, he has really good hand fighting skills, and he's a very athletic guy from the CrossFit. Now, obviously, he needs more help as far as like developing his technique. That's the reason why you get him in the 7th round. Like I said, this is the kind of guy that you're like investing in, hoping to get some special teams out of. It's more about like where you're able to fill your role on the team, and I would be interested to see like how he develops. If he develops into this amazing edge for us, great. If he gives just special team reps as a 7th rounder pick, that's great too. Like I said, like it's more about just trying to find your role and filling out this roster with talent through the draft. Now, let's talk about a different approach. Another approach we could possibly take is where free agency kind of just fills out the roster and draft goes BPA. So, like I said before, we have about $30 million to spend. So let's say instead of signing DJ Jones, we sign Poona Ford. So Poona Ford, like I said, about $6 to $7 million, might be even less. Who knows? Depends on what he's going to command. Take on Jaron Reed, like I said, has position flexibility, something you not have to worry about anymore. Like, okay, now we have our other defensive tackle that's probably going to take the place of Ashawn Robinson. Ashawn Robinson can move around. Jaron Reed can move around. Like I said, having position flexibility is going to cause us to be able to not have to worry about like crap, we're losing a player, another player went down, or if Derrick Brown doesn't come back as healthy as we're hoping he is. I think he will be. It's always a concern. Next, Baron Browning. Like I said before, we need to build up our edge class. Having Baron Browning doesn't make us have to take 2 edge rushers in this upcoming draft class, because of the fact that we have Jadeveon Clowney and we have DJ Wonnum, who are going to be gone after this year. So only have to really focus on getting at least one major edge rusher is going to help us a lot for the future with bringing in Baron Browning for 2 years. Next is going to be Oren Burks. Like I said before, have him be a one-stop gap for allowing Trevor Walsh to continue to develop. I think it's going to be great for him. Or even if Oren Burks does well, you can re-sign Oren Burks and have Trevor Walsh take Josie Jewell's place. Like I said, I really would love to have that as a one-stop gap to make sure that Trevor Walsh gets as much development as he possibly needs without throwing him to the fire like we did last year, because we had to. And then lastly, Stephon Gilmore. Like I said, get a quality number 2 corner with the ability to even take one in the draft that could replace him next year, but bring it back home. Him and Jadeveon Clowney had the final year together. Like I said, that kind of camaraderie. Also, he did well for us. He did well on the Vikings. If we're able to really rebuild our front 7, like we'll be able to do in the draft in this scenario, that would be the best thing for us, is just to take a one-stop gap, focus on the draft, and hope that our draft picks start hitting. So those are the kind of things that kind of fill out the roster, very small 1-year deals or like, small 2-year deals, not really focusing a lot on like these massive contracts, but just like trying to fill out the roster. But this is go BPA. Same exact scenario. I like to trade down. But in this case, we don't trade down with the Dolphins, we trade down with the Cowboys. So in this case, go from 8, keep pick 164, trade out from 8 to 12, and get pick 44 back. So the Cowboys give their first and their second round pick, so they can take Armand Minbu. I love Armand Minbu. Now I've talked about it before when I was talking about Donovan Ezeraku. Minbu is definitely the best right tackle in this draft class. He's going to go a lot higher than some people think. And the fact that he is falling down, the Cowboys will be concerned because they desperately need to get better right tackle. Terrence Steele is absolutely atrocious. So if you ever get Armand Mimbu, you can get a really good running back in round 3 that you don't have to like totally invest in. You don't have to go after Ashton Jeanty, though Ashton Jeanty is really good. So don't be surprised for people trying to trade up for him too. But you're able to really fortify the offensive line that you're able to get young, you're able to get good quick because your left side of your offensive line is good, your right side's not so good after Zach Martin retired. So focusing on that, focusing to make sure you get your guy. Cowboys trade up, we get pick 44 and pick 12. With pick 12, because in free agency we didn't go after safeties, we desperately need to hit safeties. So, and a player that I loved even before the combine, I started to have him start creeping up as my safety one, Nick Imaware from the South Carolina. He can play both strong safety and free safety. In this scenario, I'm putting him at free safety, mainly because he has that range he's able to do while also being a hard hitting, while also having great hands. Like I said, I know it's a lot of people don't want to draft safety super duper high, but he's with someone who's this athletic that is you've never seen before. Someone who's on the field shows his playmaking ability. Though sometimes he can be a little inconsistent, but like that's still fine. He's still a really young prospect. I would love to have him be an enforcer in the back end that is going to be able to grow in our defense. So taking Nick at pick 12, at pick 44, this guy falls right in our laps. Now, I think in this scenario, it would be great if he pick up pick 44. More than likely, he might be like a late first, early second. So in this scenario, he might not be here. But I might say his name wrong, but Azariah Thomas from Florida State, the cornerback from Florida State. Love him as being like I said. I want the young players in the secondary to be enforcers, because we didn't really see that, especially in in our defense as far as like our run defense, especially our safeties. That's the reason why I'm glad that they're gone. But you have Stephon Gilmore who could be on a snap count. Bring in Thomas. You're able to have him be the next guy that you're able to pair up with J.C. Horn for a very long time, and not to pay him as much. Like I said, that would be an amazing. In my opinion, I would love to have that of having a guy who I think is probably going to be my cornerback 4, probably, but absolutely outstanding talent that I would love for us to get. But more than likely, he's probably going to be in the first round. If not, if he falls down, love to have him. At pick 57, let's go to another South Carolina guy with Kyle Kennard. I love Kyle Kennard. Now, he was previously at Georgia Tech. He comes into South Carolina. Him and Dylan Stewart form a dynamic duo with T.J. Sanders and Todd Hemingway in the middle for the South Carolina defensive line. That absolutely goes crazy. I mean, Kyle Kennard, I believe, has some pretty good reps against LSU's tackles as well, which I'll get into. And Marie Jones not being as good, but Will Campbell is really singing good. Like I said, I think Kyle Kennard has good moves. Older prospect, sure, but as being just a solid guy, like I said, not the high that I think that Donovan Ezaraku can be, but getting a guy that could give me 6 sacks, absolutely. Getting that in the second round, I would love to have that from Kyle Kennard. Like I said, you have him and Brandon Browning being the future for the future edge rushers for this class, while having good rotation with him and DJ Wanham and also with Jadeveon Clowney. I think it's a really good rotation with those 4 that we would desperately need to try to make sure that our defense gets better. That's the first 3 picks. Going to the third round with pick 74, we fill out our safeties with Latham Ransom from Ohio State, strong safety. So he said have Nick at free safety, had Latham at strong safety. Yes, 2 young safeties. I understand there's a problem there, but if they both hit as being great safeties, that would be the best thing that we could possibly ask for, as far as being enforcers, as far as being something that we don't have to worry about for the next 4 years, is that we have the safeties down pat that we have not had in a very long time. It has been a very long time since we had both 2 good safeties. So that's our first 4 picks. Then we start getting into, it's still BPA, but it'll be more so just like, okay, let's try to find the roles that we need at 110, kind of like what I did in the last one. Let's go for the best center that's available right at this point in time. That's going to be Jared Wilson in this case at pick 110. Jared Wilson, center from Georgia, absolutely outstanding combine that he had. Now, that's like I said, that's combine on tape, also really great as well. Like I said, I have him and Jake Majors kind of on the same grade. They're pretty much kind of like the same thing for me as far as like being like a very early day 3 or a late day 2 kind of pick. And in this case, we were able to stack him up, create that competition for him and Cade Mays. And I would love that for our offensive line. At pick 113, a tight end that I would love to, like, it's going to be more of like a day 3 kind of pick for me. If we don't get someone like Mason Taylor, someone who's going to be a better blocker than Mason Taylor, but also have really good hands, that's Terrace Ferguson from Oregon, tight end. Love him as well. Like I said, he tests pretty well, but you're able to see that on the tape as well. Really great blocking tight end. That having him paired up with Jatavian Sanders, great dynamic duo. Pick 141, a little bit of fan pick for myself, but getting the running back that we desperately need, someone who might not have the absolute strength of Cam Scatterboo, but is just barely a tick down, is Jarquez Hunter. Yes. Does he have the hands of Cam Scatterboo? I think he has better hands than what he's getting credit for. You're able to see that on Auburn. Like I said, I'm an Auburn fan, but he is an absolute just like he's basically what Doug Martin used to be. He's an absolute muscle hamster. Same thing for Cam Scatterboo. Like I said, but he also has breakaway speed, and he also has return ability. Like he returned kicks when it was at Auburn. We desperately need somebody to return kicks because we do not have that with Blackshear being gone. So he fits both those roles. Special teams abilities is going to be very, very important for these later round picks. So getting that kind of guy in your running back 2 for this year, and then for next year, Jonathan Brooks taking over the running back 2 role, and Jarquez Hunter being that running back 3 while also returning kicks. That is great for us. Like I said, getting that in the 5th round is amazing. Another 5th round pick that would be more developmental role. That would be mainly your cornerback 3 once Stephon Gilmore is gone. Well, you also still have, our nickel, but still, it is Noah Williams. I love Noah Williams, even though I kind of hate him. I hate him because what he did to Auburn in that Cal game. He is the Cal cornerback that picked off twice. He had, I think he had 7 picks this year. He's a very, very physical corner that if you're looking for someone who has press man, might not be the most athletic, but as being one of the strongest cornerbacks that I've watched in a little bit, while also having the size to be able to match up with anybody, Noah Williams is your guy. He's going to be picked a little bit later, like I said, because he's not this amazing athlete. But I love Noah Williams being an enforcer. Like I said, I'm looking for someone who's, it's like what Dan Morgan said, someone who's going to be a dog, someone who's going to be an enforcer, someone who is going to not be afraid to, is not going to back down to anybody. Noah Williams is that kind of person. He's kind of being slept on by a lot of people. I think he might go higher than 147. Some people have him all the way down at closer to 189. I don't know why some people have him that low, but I think he's a really great cornerback. I'll be interested to see how he does in the pros. Same thing for Dorian Strong, but Dorian Strong from Virginia Tech is going to go a little bit higher. He's another one that I would look at too if someone like Thomas is going to be there at pick 44. Going back to the draft and at pick 164, let's go with Jamin Dumas Johnson, the linebacker from Kentucky. Yes, I know some other linebacker from Kentucky, but not only did he work with our assistant special teams coordinator, Darren Bates, at the Shrine Bowl, so he has special teams abilities, but he fits that role of having, we need depth at linebacker. And you have someone who's worked with Trevor Wallace last year and the year before. So you have that camaraderie as well. You're bringing in people who have camaraderie, who are like brothers to one another, who also bring about that special teams ability that we desperately need. Like I said, that's why I would love for that to happen. At pick 164 is great. And then another person who's being slept on, I don't understand really why, and the reason why people have said that he's a little bit low doesn't make sense to me, and I'll talk about it in a little bit. At pick 229, wide receiver, finding our wide receiver 4 is Keandre Lambert Smith from Auburn. Now, yes, like I said, I'm an Auburn fan, so I might be a little bit biased, but the main concern that people have had is at Penn State, he didn't have the best production, which is like, Miss Penn State. And there's been some problems as far as like, getting the ball to the wide receivers. So, but at Auburn, they were talking about the fact that, his his contested catch rate was not the best. You do realize that our quarterback was Peyton Thorne, right? Like if you actually watch the film, you can tell that it is not good balls that are being thrown to Keandre Lambert Smith. Lambert Smith has the speed, 4.37. He has the acceleration as far as like being able to stop and start at a dime. He runs really great routes. He knows how to position himself really well. He has, yeah, sure, he has problems dropping the ball, but some of it is not necessarily his fault. So, like the fact that he is so far low, I don't understand that. Like some people have him at like a 7th round pick. In this case, I picked him at the 7th round because he's there. But I really don't understand why people are just not looking at him. He's definitely gonna be on my sleeper list. So like the stuff that I'll do before the draft, do the offensive sleepers and the defensive sleepers, definitely be on my list because I don't understand why people aren't noticing him enough. Like at least a 5th round pick. Like I feel like that's not that odd for him to be for the kind of player that he is. But regardless, like I said, those are the two potential different kind of plans we could take where, either very heavy in free agency, very not heavy in free agency. I think it'll be a little bit blend of the two. I'm really excited to see what we do in free agency because Dan Morgan has shown that he is willing to spend, but also spend wisely. At first, I was like, "Oh, it might be a little overspend for what we did last year with Robert Hunt, Damian Lewis," but it worked out significantly that I do not care. So, if you're able, Dan Morgan, to get these impact players, I don't care at all because it works out perfectly for me. So, whatever you gotta do it to improve our team, and let's hopefully that we are able to get a smart one doing our free agency, and also find great people in the draft that's going to build up build up the offense, build up the defense, build up the special teams that we can actually start trying to actually win important games, and hopefully in the near future go to the playoffs. That's all I want is just having that hope of going to the playoffs. Also going to would be nice, but having that hope would be nice. I said this is a very long video. It's just trying to get this one out. Yes, I will still have my long-awaited road to the Super Bowl NFL basement coming out. Still working on it as far as like editing that. That one just takes up a lot of time because all the different cuts. So hope you understand that everything's kind of been going on. It's been very very busy in my life, but I've been very happy as well. But I wanted to post this video because one, I want to show you that I'm not just quitting. I just had some time, but also show that I'm well. I'm doing great, and I can't wait to show you my basement video, my basement penthouse video that y'all have been waiting for. And thank you so much for not leaving. Like I said, y'all have stayed, and even though I've not been able to post anything, um, I'll have videos out talking about free agency when those free agent moves are being done. If you want to know my opinion on what I think other teams are going to do, just go on to GridIron Gurus on YouTube. Luke and I have our opinions on like what we might think certain divisions are going to be doing. We've already finished up 2 divisions, which is the South and the North. By the time you might be watching this, we'll be starting to film the West and also the East as far as like divisions on what they might do in free agency as it start ramping up. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to comment down what you think about the video, what you think that the Panthers might do, what you might think that even your team might do, I would love to hear what you want to say in the comments. And like I said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.